Well, hello everybody. Well, a few weeks ago I showed you how to make a corned beef hash from the Second World War, and I used leftover veggies to help me with that. And I only had a little bit of corned beef, but Dan found it really tasty. One of my subscribers, Alexandra Lahurta 59, suggested that I show how to make corned beef fritters. Well, I have some corned beef in the fridge that needs using, so what better opportunity than to do that now? Dan is home in a wee while for his tea. He's got to go out after his tea, so he needs an early one, and I think it will be cheap and filling with some leftover mashed potato and some carrots and some sprouts and spring greens. Now, during the Second World War, there was a whole raft of recipes for corned beef, which you could use with a coupon that you would get extra over from your rations. Your rations were fairly meagre, 4 ounces of meat per person in the household per week, which isn't a lot, and maybe if you were lucky, a couple of rashers of bacon as well. I have here a pack of corned beef. There's 6 ounces of corned beef here, and the recipe calls for 6 ounces. Now, whatever is left from making this recipe, I will pop in the freezer. They can be heated up for a quick meal or a snack for Dan on a future occasion. The recipe I'm using or adapting, because I very rarely follow anything to the letter, is from the We'll Eat Again cookbook by Marguerite Patten. I have measured 2 ounces of plain flour into a bowl. You can use self-raising flour or plain flour. I'm using plain flour, but to give it a bit more vavavoom, I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of baking powder. That should be enough. Give that a mix round. I'm also adding a pinch of salt, just a little pinch, because corned beef is quite salty. Then I'm going to put an egg yolk in the bowl. I've separated the white from the yolk. That goes in. And I also want half a gill of milk or milk and water. Half a gill is about 75 millilitres. I'm lucky that my scales measure millilitres as well. I'm adding some raw milk. There's 47 millilitres there, and I'll just top it up with a little water. Pour that in, and I'll whisk it all together. You want it to be nice and smooth. You don't want a lumpy batter. There we go. The next thing to do is add a teaspoon of onion. It needs to be grated. Now, this is the first of my variations. I'm using red onion. If you wanted to use leeks, you could chop them really finely and add those if you prefer. The second ingredient that I'm doing a variation on is the herbs. Marguerite Patten uses parsley. I have none. However, I had a big bunch of coriander and I'm adding probably about 2 teaspoons of that. The recipe calls for 1, but it's hardly worth chopping up. Like 1 teaspoon. Stir that through and you get a nice smooth batter with the lovely smell of the herbs and the onion. And then I'm going to flake this corned beef just gently with my fingers. You could do it in the back of a fork to flake it up a bit more. I'm doing it chunky, and in fact I probably won't add all the corned beef because there looks to be quite a bit in there. Whatever corned beef I don't use will come in useful for another meal. The thing with corned beef is because it's quite salty, I'm a bit concerned that it might be too salty. So I'm erring on the side of caution and I've just done 3 slices. And in fact that looks to be enough. When you've got a batter that looks like that, I may add 1 more. I'll just keep 1 slice to the side. That'll be fine. There we go. That's perfect. I'm going to put that in the fridge now for about 15 to 20 minutes just to chill. I always find it cooks better if it's had time to chill off. During the war you wouldn't have had large helpings. This would be enough to serve 4 people in fact. You would fill up with potatoes. Each person was recommended to eat at least 1 pound of potatoes per day. This is going to be bulked out a bit with some mashed potato and vegetables, so Dan will definitely have enough to eat, and I might do him a little bit of brown gravy as well. Now it's time to start to cook the fritters. I have some dripping. I'm going to use that. You can use butter or you can use oil if you prefer. But for authenticity and because I have it, I'm using dripping. I've put a little dripping in this non-stick pan. I do have more dripping, but I don't usually need to use much in this non-stick pan. It's just to stop the fritters from sticking. We don't want them too greasy though. When I've fried them off, I'll put them on a plate lined with kitchen paper anyway, just to get any grease off. I've put spoons of the fritter mixture in the pan and they're cooking gently. In about 2 or 3 minutes I'll flip them over and do them on the other side and then carry on with the rest. I think there's enough mixture for maybe 6 or 7. It's time to dish up. You hungry, babe?
I am, certainly, very hungry.
Right, so these are the lovely corned beef fritters. So let's give you some big ones. I'll give you 2 to start, you can always have more. That would have been a really good wartime ration. You would have probably had smaller ones than that. Everything was a bit smaller during the war. My nan used to put bicarb in her cabbage and it was always very soft. She used to put butter in as well, but she always overcooked everything like that. Sprouts, cabbage, spinach. My nan used bicarb in all her greens because they were cooked within an inch of the life, and she always said that bicarb kept the greens green. And she put pepper in everything as well. She really liked pepper. So there we are, there's corned beef fritters and vegetables. So Dan, are you going to give this a try?
Definitely.
Right, okay, I'll bring it over to the table.
Let's have a taste. I'll put a bit of gravy on. Let's try these. Yumbo jumbo.
They're not too salty?
No, they're just right. Perfect.
What can you taste in them?
Corned beef.
Yes.
Obviously. Potato.
No, it's batter.
It's batter. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, no potato
And there's
there.
some, is there chives or something in it?
Coriander.
Coriander.
And a bit of grated onion.
It's really nice.
Is it well seasoned?
Perfectly seasoned.
Have you tried it with your gravy?
Yes, I have.
What mark would you give me for that then?
Oh, top marked.
You like that? Okay, thanks then, babe. So that's yet another successful meal. Thanks again to my subscriber for asking me to do this recipe. I think this might be one of Dan's favourites in the future.
Definitely.
When he needs a quick meal that's satisfying and tasty. If you like this recipe, please like, share, subscribe. If you haven't already done so, please do comment. Let me know if there's any other recipes featuring corned beef or anything else you would like me to show, and I'll see you again soon for the next one. And remember to ding that notification bell so you know when the next video's up. Bye for now.